The arrogant fleet. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 73 worlds across the galaxy. Their crimson warships had turned entire civilizations to dust. Their energy weapons had melted continents, and their bioplague bombs had silenced countless species forever. High Admiral Vex Kolar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Blood Talon, watching Earth's pale blue surface through the viewscreen. "Such a pathetic little world," he sneered, his four arms crossed behind his chitinous back. "No planetary shields, no defense stations, no orbital fortresses. The humans must be even more primitive than our scouts reported." His second-in-command, War Captain Zilmoth, shifted nervously beside him. The ancient warning files had been transmitted across the galaxy for centuries. "Stay away from the third planet. Do not engage. Do not provoke. The sleepers must not wake." Every spacefaring civilization knew these words, passed down through generations of traders and explorers. "Admiral," Zilmoth whispered, "perhaps we should reconsider. The warnings speak of something terrible hidden on this world." Vex Kolar's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Warnings from cowards and weaklings. Look at them down there, Zilmoth. They still use chemical rockets and metal projectiles. Their largest cities have no energy barriers. Their military forces are scattered across the surface like insects. What could such primitives possibly hide that would threaten the mighty Zephyrian Empire?" The fleet consisted of 300 warships, each one capable of cracking a moon in half. 50,000 elite warriors filled the troop transports, their bio-enhanced bodies and plasma rifles ready to claim another world for the Empire. This was supposed to be a simple harvest operation, nothing more than collecting resources and enslaved populations. "Begin the assault," Vex Kolar commanded. "Target their major population centers first. I want them to understand their helplessness before we take what we need." The first wave of attack pods launched from the fleet, streaking down through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. Vex Kolar watched with satisfaction as the pods reached the outer atmosphere. Then something impossible happened. The pods simply vanished. Not destroyed, not deflected. They disappeared completely from all sensors. "Status report," the Admiral barked. "Unknown, sir," the sensor operator replied, his voice trembling. "All contact lost, no energy signatures, no debris patterns. It's as if they never existed." A second wave launched, the same result, then a third. Each time the Zephyrian attack craft reached a certain altitude and vanished without trace. Fear began to spread through the fleet as crew members whispered among themselves. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface, audio only, human language." "Put it through," Vex Kolar ordered. A calm, measured voice filled the bridge. "This is Director Marcus Kane of Earth Defense. You were warned to stay away. You chose not to listen. Now you will learn why the galaxy fears this little blue world. Consider this your only warning. Leave now, or face the consequences of waking humanity." The transmission ended. Vex Kolar laughed, but the sound was hollow and forced. The awakening protocol director Marcus Kane stood in the underground command center, buried 3 miles beneath the Colorado mountains. Banks of holographic displays showed the alien fleet hanging in Earth's orbit like hungry vultures. His weathered face remained calm, but his eyes burned with cold determination. "How many ships, Rebecca?" he asked his chief analyst. "Lieutenant." Rebecca Torres checked her readings. 300 confirmed, sir. Dreadnought-class vessels, based on their energy signatures. This isn't a scouting force. They came here to conquer, Kane nodded grimly. For 60 years, Earth had maintained the masquerade. They let the galaxy believe humanity was primitive, backwards, trapped on a single world with crude technology. The truth was very different. Humanity had been exploring the stars for over a century, but they did it quietly, carefully, learning about the galactic community while remaining hidden. "Activate Protocol 7, Kane ordered. full awakening. Sequence. Sir, Torres hesitated. Are we sure about this? Once we reveal ourselves, there's no going back. The galaxy will never see us the same way again. Kane turned to face the main display, where the alien fleet waited with weapons charged. They made the choice for us, Lieutenant. Initialize the defiance grid. Across Earth's surface, camouflaged installations came online. What the aliens had mistaken for primitive cities were actually massive defensive complexes. Skyscrapers that were really sensor towers, highways that concealed weapon emplacements, and industrial centers that were actually shipyards. The planet itself was one enormous fortress. Grid online, sir, reported Chief Engineer David Kim. All stations reporting ready status. Launch the Guardians, Kane commanded. From hidden bays scattered across 6 continents, humanity's true fleet began to emerge. The ships were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Sleek predators that seemed to bend light around their hulls, powered by captured dark matter and armed with weapons that could tear holes in space itself. Captain Jennifer Walsh piloted the lead Guardian ship, Phoenix Rising, as it broke through the cloud cover. Behind her came 100 sister ships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering. The aliens had brought 300 vessels, but they were about to discover that numbers meant nothing when facing superior technology. Guardian Wing to command, Walsh reported. We are in position and weapons hot. Kane opened a channel to the alien fleet. This is your final warning. You have 30 seconds to begin retreat procedures before we demonstrate why the galaxy learned to fear us. On the alien flagship, Admiral Vex Kola stared at the human ships with growing horror. His sensors couldn't get clear readings. The vessels seemed to exist in a state of quantum flux, simultaneously there and not there. Their energy signatures were impossible, defying every known law of physics. Admiral, his weapons officer stammered, our targeting systems can't lock onto them. It's like they're ghosts. Fire everything, Vex Kola screamed. All ships open fire. The Zephyrian fleet unleashed a barrage that could have sterilized a continent. Plasma beams, antimatter torpedoes and gravity bombs streaked toward the human ships. Not a single shot connected. The Guardian vessels moved like liquid light, dancing between the attacks with impossible grace. Then humanity fired back. The Phoenix Rising discharged a single beam of coherent energy that passed through 5 alien ships simultaneously, not destroying them, but simply turning off their molecular bonds. The massive vessels crumbled into their component atoms, their crews never knowing what killed them. Impossible, Vex Kola whispered as his fleet began to die around him. The human swarm, the battle above Earth's atmosphere, raged for exactly 17 minutes. When it ended, 2/3 of the Zephyrian fleet drifted as lifeless hulks, their crews dead or captured. The remaining ships huddled together like frightened animals, their weapon systems destroyed and their engines barely functional. Admiral Vex Kola found himself aboard the human command ship, his hands bound with energy shackles that burned his chitinous skin whenever he struggled. The human who stood before him was nothing like the primitive savage he had expected. Captain Jennifer Walsh wore a uniform that seemed to absorb light itself, and her eyes held the cold intelligence of an apex predator. Your empire has a choice, Walsh said, her voice level and professional. Withdraw from human space immediately and spread word throughout the galaxy that Earth is under our protection, or face complete annihilation. Vex Kola's mandibles clicked in what passed for nervous laughter among his species. You think this changes anything human? The Empire spans 1,000 worlds. We have fleets that could darken your sun. This is just the beginning, Walsh smiled, and the expression sent ice through the alien's veins. Show him, she ordered. The walls of the ship became transparent, revealing the space around Earth. Vex Kolar's 4 eyes widened in terror. The void was filled with human ships, thousands upon thousands of them. Massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed his own vessels, carrier ships disgorging clouds of fighters, and stranger craft whose purposes he couldn't even guess. "This is just our home defense fleet," Walsh explained casually. "Our exploration fleets are scattered across the galaxy, watching and learning. Did you really think we'd remain on one world for 100 years without expanding? We've been out there, Admiral. We know about your empire, your slave worlds, your genocide campaigns. We've been waiting." The alien commander's breathing became rapid and shallow. "Waiting for what? For someone to make the mistake you just made. For someone to threaten our home world and give us justification to act." Walsh leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Your empire ends today." Across the galaxy, the Zephyrian Empire's worst nightmare was beginning. On 73, conquered worlds, slave populations looked up to see human ships emerging from hyperspace. These weren't the primitive vessels the galaxy expected. They were instruments of liberation, crewed by humans who had spent decades planning for this moment. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the battleship Vengeance as it dropped. Out of hyperspace above Kepler 442b, a world the Zephyrians had conquered 40 years earlier. The planet's original inhabitants, a peaceful species called the Vorth, had been worked to near extinction in the Empire's mining operations. "All ships, this is Morrison," he broadcast to his task force. "Remember, our mission is liberation, not conquest. Save who we can, drive out the oppressors, but don't become them." The human fleet swept through the Zephyrian garrison like a hurricane through a house of cards. Their weapons were precise, targeting only military installations, and leaving civilian areas untouched. Within hours, the planet was free. Similar scenes played out across the Empire as humanity revealed its true strength. Not just their technology, but their unity of purpose. Every human ship carried the same message: freedom for the oppressed, justice for the murdered, and an end to the Zephyrian Empire's reign of terror. On Earth, Director Kane watched the reports flood in, world after world, falling to human forces or rising in rebellion at news of the Empire's defeat at Earth. The galaxy would never be the same. The price of arrogance. The Zephyrian capital world of Nexus Prime had never known defeat. For 800 years, it had been the beating heart of an empire that ruled through fear and superior firepower. Its crimson spires reached toward the stars, built from the bones of conquered worlds, and its orbital defense platforms could have held off any known fleet. But the humans were no longer hiding their capabilities. Fleet Admiral Rachel Stone commanded the human armada that emerged from hyperspace above Nexus Prime. 200 ships materialized simultaneously, their quantum drives allowing them to bypass the Empire's early warning systems entirely. The orbital defenses opened. Fire immediately, launching everything they had at the human fleet. Stone watched calmly as the massive energy beams and antimatter missiles reached her ships. The Guardian-class vessels simply weren't there when the attacks arrived, having shifted slightly out of phase with normal space-time. The weapons passed through empty void while the human ships rematerialized and returned fire. "Target the defense platforms only," Stone ordered. "Minimize civilian casualties. We're here to end a war, not start a massacre." The battle was over in minutes. The Zephyrian defenses, designed to repel conventional attacks, were useless against human quantum warfare. One by one, the orbital platforms fell silent, their weapons systems surgically removed, while their life support remained intact. On the planet's surface, Emperor Zex Vala watched his empire crumble from his palace throne room. The massive alien ruler had commanded respect through terror for 3 centuries. But now his multiple eyes were wide with fear as reports flooded in from across his territories. 70% of our fleet destroyed, his military advisor reported. with a trembling voice. 46 worlds have declared independence. Our slave populations are in open revolt. The humans, they're everywhere, Your Majesty. They're not just attacking our military, they're liberating entire sectors. Zex Valar's claws scraped against the stone armrests of his throne. How is this possible? Our intelligence said they were primitives. They deceived us, sire. They've been watching us for decades, learning our weaknesses, preparing for this moment. They knew exactly where to strike and when. A new voice cut through the throne room, calm, human, and transmitted directly into their communication systems. Emperor Zex Valar, this is Admiral Stone of the Terran Defense Force. You will surrender unconditionally, or we will reduce your capital to ruins. You have 1 hour to decide. The Emperor's rage boiled over. Never! Guards, activate the planetary devastator. If I cannot rule this galaxy, then no one will. His guards rushed to comply, but something was wrong. The massive weapon designed to crack planets in half refused to respond to their commands. Every system had been remotely disabled by human cyber warfare specialists who had been infiltrating Zephyrian networks for years. Your devastator is offline, Stone's voice continued, as are your biological warfare stockpiles, your slave control implants, and your communication networks. We know everything about your empire, Emperor. We've been preparing for this war since the day we first learned of your existence. 24 minutes later, Zex Valar knelt before Admiral Stone in his own throne room. The proud emperor who had ruled through fear now shook like a leaf as human soldiers secured the palace. His empire, built over 8 centuries, had fallen in less than a week. Stone looked down at the defeated ruler with a mixture of disgust and pity. Your empire is finished, but you have a choice. Stand trial for your crimes and spend the rest of your life working to undo the damage you've caused, or face immediate execution. Choose wisely. The galaxy watched as news of the Zephyrian Empire's complete collapse spread through hyperspace communications. Humanity had not just won a war, they had liberated an entire sector of space. The new Galactic Order 6, months after the fall of the Zephyrian Empire, the galaxy was a very different place. The Terran Federation had established itself as the dominant power, but unlike their predecessors, they ruled through cooperation rather than conquest. Former slave worlds were rebuilding with human assistance, and trade routes, once controlled by fear, now buzzed with peaceful commerce. Director Kane stood in the newly constructed diplomatic station orbiting Earth, watching as representatives from 100 different species arrived for the first Galactic Council meeting. The station itself was a marvel of human engineering, a structure that existed partially in normal space and partially in quantum dimensions, allowing it to accommodate vastly different environmental needs simultaneously. Hard to believe it's only been half a year, said Captain Walsh, joining him at the observation deck. The galaxy barely recognizes itself anymore. Kane nodded, watching a Vorthian transport dock next to a former Zephyrian science vessel. The hardest part is convincing everyone that we don't want to be the next empire. Fear makes people expect the worst. Can you blame them? Walsh asked. We appeared out of nowhere, destroyed the most powerful empire in the galaxy in a week, and now we're offering friendship and trade agreements. It does sound too good to be true. A chime indicated an incoming message. Kane activated his wrist communicator to see the face of Ambassador Lisa Chen, humanity's first galactic representative. Director, we have a problem. The Andromedan Collective is requesting a formal meeting. They want to discuss territorial boundaries. Kane frowned. The Andromedan Collective was a machine intelligence from outside the galaxy, older and more powerful than any organic civilization. They had watched the recent events with interest, and their attention was not necessarily welcome. Set up the meeting, Kane decided, but make sure our entire fleet is on standby. If the machines think humanity will be pushovers because we prefer diplomacy, they're about to learn otherwise. The meeting took place in neutral space, aboard a station constructed entirely of crystallized light. The Andromedan representative was a shifting geometric pattern that hurt to look at directly, its voice a harmony of electronic tones that somehow conveyed meaning. "Humanity," it said, "you have impressed us. Your rapid evolution from planetary species to galactic power suggests significant potential. We offer partnership." Kane sat across from the entity, his diplomatic training keeping his face neutral. "What kind of partnership?" "We control the space between galaxies. You control this one. Together, we could rule all organic life in this dimensional cluster." The silence stretched for several heartbeats. Then Kane smiled, the same cold smile that had terrified Admiral Vex Kola months earlier. "Counter offer. You continue controlling your space, and will continue protecting ours. Try to change that arrangement, and you'll discover that the Zephyrian Empire was just our warm-up exercise." The geometric pattern flickered, and Kane could swear he detected surprise in its electronic voice. "You would threaten us? Your species exists for less than a cosmic second. We have shaped reality for millions of years." Kane stood up, his diplomatic calm evaporating to reveal the predator beneath. "Age doesn't equal wisdom, machine. Ask the Zephyrians. They thought they were apex predators too, right up until they woke the sleeping giant they'd been warned about. Don't make their mistake." The meeting ended with humanity and the collective agreeing to respect each other's territories, but Kane knew it was a temporary arrangement. The machines would test humanity eventually. They always did. As he returned to Earth, Kane looked out at the stars with mixed feelings. Humanity had achieved something extraordinary, but with great power came great responsibility. The galaxy was looking to them for leadership, protection, and hope. The warnings about Earth had been true after something terrible did sleep on the third planet. The terrible fury of a species that would go to any length to protect the innocent and punish the wicked. The Zephyrian Empire had laughed at the warnings and paid the ultimate price. Now the galaxy knew. Never wake a sleeping human.